Recently, Topdon sent me their Topdon One scan tool to evaluate. They provided the tool free of charge for this review, but before I agreed, I had one condition. I wanted to spend several weeks using it in my shop before sharing my opinion. Over the past 6 weeks, I've put this tool to work on a variety of vehicles and repair situations to see how it performs outside of a controlled demonstration. In this video, I'll walk you through the features that stood out to me, the areas where I think it could be improved, and ultimately help you decide whether the Topdon One deserves a place in your toolbox or not. Before we start putting this scan tool through its paces, let's take a moment to understand exactly what it is, and just as importantly, what it isn't. The Topdon One is a professional-grade diagnostic scan tool designed for technicians, advanced DIY mechanics, and automotive enthusiasts who want capabilities well beyond a basic code reader. While inexpensive code readers are often limited to retrieving and clearing generic fault codes, mid-range tools like the Topdon One can communicate with virtually every control module on a vehicle. Now that means you can access systems like ABS, airbag, transmission, body control module, the HVAC system, tire pressure monitoring systems, and many other that a simple code reader can't even see. For the $750 price range here in 2026, this is a tool worth considering. Beyond reading diagnostic trouble codes, the Topdon One is capable of displaying live data, performing active tests on many vehicle systems, and carrying out a wide range of maintenance and service procedures that have become increasingly common on today's vehicles. Tasks like electronic parking brake service, oil reset procedures, steering angle calibration, battery registration, and many other functions can often be performed directly through the scan tool, eliminating the need for expensive dealer visits. Now, having a long list of features on paper is one thing. The real question is how well those features work when you're diagnosing actual vehicles in the shop. And that's exactly what I wanted to find out over the past 6 weeks. Before I started filming this review, I wanted to make sure I had enough time with the Topdon One to form an honest opinion. Over the course of 6 weeks, I used this scan tool the same way I use the other diagnostic equipment in my shop, on real vehicles, during real repairs, and across a variety of makes and models. I wasn't interested in seeing whether it could simply connect to a vehicle and read a new fault code. I wanted to know how quickly it communicated with different systems, how easy the software was to navigate, and whether the live data was useful during diagnosis, and if the bidirectional controls and service functions performed reliably when I actually needed them. My goal isn't to convince you to buy this scan tool, it's to give you enough information to decide whether it's the right tool for your needs. So with that out of the way, let's power up the Topdon One and take a look at the user interface and some of the features that stood out during my time using it. The first thing I noticed was the overall build quality. The tablet has a solid feel in your hands, the protective rubber housing gives it some added durability, and that wireless VCI is compact enough that it doesn't get in the way when it's plugged into the vehicle's diagnostic port. It's obvious that this tool was designed with a shop environment in mind. Now, powering up the unit was quick enough, although slower than my Autel, and navigating through the menus feels smooth and responsive. The touchscreen reacts well to inputs, the display is bright and easy to read, and I found the menu layout to be intuitive. Even if you've never used a Topdon scan tool before, it doesn't take long to become familiar with where everything is located in it. Connecting to a vehicle is straightforward. Once the wireless VCI is paired with the tablet, communication is fast and stable. On many vehicles, the Auto VIN feature correctly identified the vehicle information, saving a few extra steps before beginning the diagnostic process. In the instances where the Auto VIN wasn't available or couldn't identify the vehicle, manually selecting the year, make, and model was simple and only took a minute. One feature I appreciate is that the home screen keeps the most commonly used functions front and center. Whether you're performing a full system scan, accessing live data, running an active test, or selecting one of the maintenance features, everything is organized in a logical way. I never found myself hunting through multiple menus just to locate a feature I use regularly. Of course, a clean interface doesn't mean much if the scan tool can't perform when it's time to diagnose a vehicle. So let's connect to a few vehicles here and see how it handles one of the most common tasks every technician performs, a complete system scan. One of the very first things I do when a vehicle comes into my shop with a warning light or a drivability concern is perform a complete system scan. Many people make the mistake of focusing only on the check engine light, but today's vehicles contain dozens of control modules that can communicate with one another. A fault stored in the ABS, transmission, body control module, or any other system may provide valuable clues that can help point you in the right direction. With the Topdon One, performing a full system scan is a pretty straightforward process. Once the vehicle is identified, simply select the Auto Scan feature, and the tool begins communicating with each module installed on the vehicle. Depending on the make and model, the scan typically completes within a few minutes and presents the results in an organized, easy-to-read format. From there, you can quickly see which modules have stored diagnostic trouble codes, which systems are communicating normally, and where your diagnostic efforts should be focused. Instead of jumping from one module to another individually, everything is presented in one location, giving you a much better picture of the vehicle's condition. Now, once you've identified a fault, selecting that module allows you to view the diagnostic trouble code along with any available supporting information. You can clear codes after repairs have been completed, access freeze frame data when it's available, and begin looking at live sensor data to verify that concern. This is where a professional scan tool really begins to separate itself from an inexpensive code reader. Throughout my testing, I found the scan process to be consistent across the different vehicles I worked on. Communication with the modules was reliable, the results were easy to interpret, and moving between systems felt quick and responsive. That's exactly what you want when you're trying to diagnose a problem efficiently. Of course, reading fault codes is only the first step in the diagnostic process. The real value of a professional scan tool comes from being able to interact with the vehicle, monitor sensor data in real time, and then command components during testing. Let's take a look at one of the features I use most often. We use a scan tool to get a better understanding of a vehicle's condition. And that's also one of the important steps we discussed in my video, Don't Buy a Money Pit. Are you missing these red flags? And because there's so much more to inspecting a used vehicle than simply connecting a scan tool, I created my free used car buying guide that walks you through the process step by step. It covers the questions you should ask, the warning signs you should watch for, and the areas of the vehicle you should inspect before making a purchase. You can download your free copy using the QR code or the link in the description below. And if you decide this is the right tool for your needs, purchasing it through the affiliate link may earn the channel a small commission at no additional cost. As always, I want you to purchase a tool if it makes sense for the type of work you actually perform. And finally, if you're finding this review helpful, please take a moment to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications if you haven't already, leave a comment below with your questions or your experience using the Topdon scan tool, and share this video with someone who might be looking for a more capable diagnostic tool. Those simple actions make a tremendous difference by helping YouTube recommend this video to more people and allowing us to continue producing detailed automotive repair and diagnostic content. Now, reading trouble codes and completing a full system scan can give us a great overview of a vehicle, but fault codes are only the beginning of the diagnostic process. To understand what's actually happening while the engine is running, we need to examine the information being reported in real time. Let's get back to the Topdon One and take a closer look at the live data capabilities. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is people believing that reading a trouble code tells them what part needs to be replaced. In reality, a diagnostic trouble code is simply telling you that the control module has detected a problem within a particular system. It doesn't identify the failed component, and it certainly doesn't tell you to start replacing parts. That's where live data becomes one of the most valuable features of a professional scan tool. Instead of looking at a snapshot in time, live data allows you to monitor what the vehicle is doing while it's actually running. You can watch sensors respond in real time, observe changes as operation conditions change, and compare different data streams to determine whether a component is functioning properly or if something else is causing the problem. During my testing, I found the Topdon One made navigating live data straightforward. Parameters are organized in a logical format, selecting multiple data PIDs is simple, and switching between numerical values and graphing can make changing sensor information much easier to interpret. For example, if I'm diagnosing a fuel trim concern, I can monitor both the short-term and long-term fuel trims while also watching oxygen sensor activity, mass airflow readings, engine coolant temperature, and engine load, all at the same time. Seeing how these values interact with one another often tells me far more than the trouble code ever could. The same is true when diagnosing transmission problems, ABS concerns, charging system issues, or intermittent sensor failures. Live data allows you to verify what the vehicle is actually seeing instead of making assumptions based solely on stored fault codes. I also like the ability to graph sensor data. Some problems become much easier to identify when you can visualize how a sensor responds over time rather than trying to interpret rapidly changing numbers on a screen. Whether you're checking an oxygen sensor, throttle position sensor, or another analog input, graphing can make subtle problems much easier to recognize. Like any professional scan tool, however, the quality of your diagnostics still depend on understanding what the data means. The scan tool provides the information, but it's up to the technician to interpret it correctly. So now that we've looked at how the Topdon One gathers information from the vehicle, let's move on to one of the features that really separates professional scan tools from entry-level code readers. That's bidirectional controls and active testing. If you've never used a professional scan tool before, bidirectional controls may be one of the most valuable features you'll ever own. Unlike a basic code reader, which simply receives information from the vehicle, a bidirectional scan tool allows you to send commands back to various control modules. In other words, you're not just observing what the vehicle is doing. You can actually command certain components to operate on demand. This can be an enormous time saver during the diagnostic process. For example, if I'm diagnosing an electric cooling fan that isn't operating properly, I don't have to wait for the engine to reach operating temperature and hope that fan turns on. I can simply command the fan on using the scan tool. If it responds, I know the motor, the wiring, and the control circuit are capable of operating. If it doesn't, I know exactly where to begin my testing. The same principle applies to many other vehicle systems. Depending on the make and model, you may be able to command fuel pumps, evap purge valves, radiator fans, air conditioning compressors, fuel injectors, electronic throttle bodies, door locks, windows, and many other components. Instead of guessing whether a component is working, you can often verify its operation in just a few seconds. During my time using the Topdon One, I found the active test functions to be easy to locate and simple to use. The menus were organized logically, and once connected to a supported vehicle, commanding individual components was a straightforward process. As with any scan tool, the available active tests will vary depending on the manufacturer, the model, and the control modules installed in the vehicle. But on compatible vehicles, this feature can dramatically reduce diagnostic time. For me, this is one of the biggest differences between a consumer-grade scan tool and a professional diagnostic platform. Reading trouble codes tells you where to begin looking. Active tests help you confirm what's actually happening. I did not have a need to go into coding or programming, but the company states it supports these features. I guess time will tell. As vehicles become more advanced, many routine maintenance procedures now require a scan tool to complete the job correctly. Years ago, changing your oil or replacing a battery was often as simple as turning a wrench. Today, many manufacturers require electronic reset or calibration procedures before the vehicle can recognize a repair has been completed. This is where the maintenance functions built into the Topdon One can become extremely useful. Depending on the vehicle manufacturer and model, the scan tool offers a wide range of service functions that can simplify many common repairs. These include procedures such as oil service resets, electronic parking brake service for pad replacement, battery registration, steering angle sensor calibration, throttle body relearns, diesel particulate filter regeneration, and tire pressure monitoring system functions, as well as many others. During my evaluation, I used several of these service functions on vehicles in the shop, and the process was very straightforward. Simply select the appropriate service procedure, follow the on-screen prompts, and the scan tool walks you through each step. In most cases, the instructions are clear and easy to follow, reducing guesswork that's often involved with manufacturer-specific procedures. One thing I always encourage, however, is understanding why you're performing a reset or a calibration. A scan tool makes these procedures accessible, but they shouldn't be used simply because the option exists. Many relearn procedures are designed to complete a repair or initialize a new component after it's been replaced. Performing unnecessary resets can sometimes erase that valuable adaptive information or create additional work that wasn't needed in the first place. For technicians and serious DIY mechanics, having these service functions available in a single tool can save both time and money by eliminating unnecessary trips to the dealership for procedures that can now be completed right in your own garage. One question I know many of you are going to ask is about software updates, so let's talk about that for a minute. The Topdon One includes 1 year of software updates with the initial purchase. After that, renewing the software currently costs $299 for a year and $479 for 2 more years. This is one of the main concerns about a scan tool in this price range, but should be expected. Now here's the important part. If you decide not to renew, the scan tool doesn't suddenly become useless like some other ones. It continues to perform core functions like reading and clearing trouble codes, displaying live data, running the active tests, and performing many of the maintenance procedures we demonstrated throughout this video. The subscription primarily keeps you current with the latest vehicle coverage and unlocks some of the advanced features as new software is released. Whether the annual update makes sense really depends on how you use the tool. If you're a professional technician working on the latest vehicles every day, staying current is simply part of doing business. On the other hand, if you're a DIY mechanic who primarily works on the same family vehicles for several years, you may find that updating every year isn't necessary. That's a decision each owner will have to make based on their individual needs. After spending a month and a half using the Topdon One on a variety of vehicles, I can honestly say that I've been pretty impressed with its overall performance. It communicates well with the vehicles I tested, the software is pretty responsive, and the user interface is intuitive, and it offers diagnostic and service capabilities I would expect from a professional level scan tool. What I appreciate most is that it doesn't try to overcomplicate the diagnostic process. Whether I'm performing a full system scan, monitoring live data, running active tests, or completing a service procedure, everything was laid out in a logical manner that made it easy to navigate. That's something you don't always find, even on more expensive scan tools. Of course, no scan tool is perfect. We've talked about this before. Every manufacturer has its strengths and weaknesses, and certain vehicle platforms where one tool may offer features the other doesn't, or it won't work well with a particular model. And that's simply the nature of aftermarket diagnostic equipment. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, is that no single scan tool does absolutely everything. And with that said, I think the Topdon One does an excellent job of balancing its capabilities, ease of use, and overall value. Whether you're an advanced DIY mechanic looking to expand your diagnostic abilities, or you're a professional technician looking for another capable scan tool in the shop, I believe the Topdon One deserves a serious consideration. But I'd like to leave you with one final thought. A scan tool doesn't diagnose a vehicle. The technician diagnoses the vehicle. The scan tool simply provides access to the information that you need to make an informed decision. The better you understand that information, the more accurate your diagnosis will be. In my opinion, investing in your diagnostic knowledge will always be a greater return than simply buying more expensive tools. Go ahead and check out another one of our great videos right over here. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one.